Hello, I'm trying, walking again, holding my phone, so we'll see what happens, shall we? I'll try and show you my hands if it happens. But I wanted to talk a bit today about, a little bit more about fake TIs and their purpose, really. And their purpose is to make you sound like a fucking idiot, basically, you know. They want to, all this stuff's happened in your environment and your head's mashed, you know, if you're anything like me. When they came into my house and they totally destroyed my life, my head was absolutely mashed after it. And there's some things that I believe now because they're true that I would never have in a million years believed before, you know, technology things, but also spiritual things, you know. I don't dismiss anything. I try not to dismiss anything. I try and keep a really open mind about all things that are going on. And you know, I watch a lot of channels where people don't, you know, they personally give a lot of good information about the kind of technology side of things, and that's good for me because I really struggle with that type of thing. Hearing it from a kind of scientific perspective, I understand and pick it up a lot better if it's coming from a kind of average person. But these same people will dismiss that there's anything spiritual about this, that there's no kind of witchcraft involved, that there's nothing, you know, in your kind of bloodline or your ancestry or your DNA or where you came from. You know, it's just all technology. It's all kind of military government type thing, and that's fine because I get a lot of good information from them, and who am I to say what it is that they believe? You know, I just kind of pick and choose the information that I pick up. And the same with people who really are set on the spiritual side of things. They say that this is all witchcraft. It's all, you know, bloodline based. You are chosen. This is a kind of biblical kind of thing, you know. And again, like I say, I keep an open mind and I don't dismiss anything they say, but some of those people will dismiss the technology, say it's not technology, you know, these people are demonically possessed. And you know, each to their own, really, each to their own. I get a lot of information from both sides of the fence, and I'm very much on the fence. I very much sit on the fence, and like I say, I try not to dismiss anything because keeping an open mind is the best way to go about it. But a lot of these fake TIs, you know, the ones that I've spoke about before, they direct conversation to you, you know, and they want you to buy in to the most craziest shit going, you know. They want you to believe that there's alien. Listen, I'm not dismissing any of this stuff. Maybe, you know, there is aliens. Maybe I've heard, you know, about the Anunnaki that came down and the cloning that went on, etc. I've heard about shapeshifters. Again, I don't want to dismiss anything, but it sounds off the wall, doesn't it? But their goal is to get you talking about this, get you believing this, that there's alien species shapeshifters, that you know, maybe the royal family are lizard people. I don't fucking know. Who am I to say, you know? I wouldn't doubt it, to be honest. They're definitely something, aren't they? Paedophiles, probably, but maybe lizard people, I don't know. But these people want you, if you're making content, if you're making videos, to start talking about the most, you know, seemingly ridiculous stuff going. They want you to sound off the wall. They want you to start preaching about shapeshifters, about Prince Andrew, you know, plays the part of Mel Gibson, and, you know, Sandra Bullock, and they're all shapeshifters in Hollywood. Maybe they are. Like I say, I don't dismiss anything, but it's not the focus of my targeting. I'm not getting targeted, as far as I know, by the royal family, or maybe I am. But it's not really, you know, happening in my life right now, you know. But they need you speaking about this kind of stuff because it makes you sound cuckoo. So if anyone were to take up your story and start listening to you, oh, I was cuckooed out my house, you know, and the police and the military are involved, and the military have been using me as an experiment since I was a child, and they did the same to my dad, you know, and they experimented on my mum, causing MS, and, you know, they killed both of them eventually. And me and my family have all been targeted, and, you know, one of my cousins works for British Aerospace, and, you know, if someone starts kind of digging into that, then they need me to sound like a lunatic going, it's all aliens and shapeshifters. They can't have me talking sense. They can't have me sounding rational about this. They want to make me sound as off the wall as possible. Because who's going to listen, really, you know? Who's going to take you seriously? The more nutty you sound, these people will go with it themselves, you know, that they buy into this. I guarantee you they do not. The people that are doing this, these fake TIs and these nonsense talkers, they'll get certain people to believe this stuff because, like I said, all of us are in a situation where our heads are mashed and we're quite willing to buy into things because we're scraping all around looking for answers and things that seemed impossible to us before we realise we're being targeted in terms of technology, etc. It sounds off the wall anyway, so other kind of more off the wall stuff, you start to think, oh, well, maybe, you know. But it's when you're starting to spout that yourself and use that in your videos, you know, it's really playing into what it is that they want you to do. They desperately need you to do that, to sound like a nutcase. That's what they want, is you to sound nuts. And like I say, I'm not saying that none of this stuff exists. I'm not saying that people are not demonically possessed, because I do have a real kind of a lot of feelings about a lot of this stuff, you know, that a lot of it is true and a lot of it is factual. So I'm not dismissing anything. I'm just saying that their game is to get you sounding as crazy as possible and to start talking, to keep talking about the most nutty things they can, so they can all sit back and laugh at you, you know. And that's why they put these people around you, and it's a shame, you know, because I see some people falling for it, and some people will start, you know, getting wrapped up in this stuff and, you know, not really kind of taking it for what it is, and, you know, maybe going a bit too far down a rabbit hole that really isn't relevant in their lives, you know. I mean, it's relevant in all our lives, I suppose, but I don't know. It just annoys me. It annoys me, these deceptive people. These are the real demons. They annoy me. They really are sick people, you know, sick people. To do this to other people, get a great kick out of doing it, but of course it's part of the kind of disinformation, isn't it? They have to have us all sounding nuts so nobody listens. The more nuttier you sound, you know, there's been absolutely nut things that have happened to me. They had a woman walk past me as I left my brother's house last year, and she was the spitting image of my nan who had died like 10 years previously, you know. That sounds mad, doesn't it? It sounds mad. I mean, she wasn't a shapeshifter. She wasn't a clone, or maybe she is, who knows. I think she was probably an actress, or if went some acting agency, or on the books of some kind of group or some kind of place, and she was held up in the area, you know, because they knew that I was getting ready to leave, because they're watching my every move. They saw me packing a bag, they saw me looking into train times, and they've kept her in the area for the day when I start heading to town to get the bus out of there, and then had her walk past me. You know, that's the rational explanation, but it sounds nuts, doesn't it? I've had people again walking past me like my children. You know, one of them walked past me doing the pose in a photograph that I had on my living room wall of my eldest daughter when I took her to London, and she walked past me, this woman, in the same jacket that my daughter was wearing in the photo, doing the same pose. She was it was raining that day, and she had her coat but it wasn't done up, and she had the hood and she was holding it like that. And they had this girl walk past me with the same hair as my daughter, doing the same pose, and she looked right at me and smirked. You know, that sounds mad. They want you to say that stuff because it sounds mad, but if you start talking about aliens, it sounds even madder, doesn't it? You know. So just be careful of these people. They don't have your best interests at heart, you know. Try and keep a level head. Some of this stuff is absolutely off the wall, but it's you don't really, you can listen and you can understand and you can believe the off the wall stuff. I'm telling you, don't dismiss anything, you know. But really, in terms of starting talking about it, you need to remember your own kind of credibility and the people might be listening to you, people who could potentially help you, or people who are potentially on your side that are interested to see what's happened and where this goes, you know. And not just the bad guys who want to see how nutty they can make you sound and how much they can break you. So just be aware, you know. Just be aware of what it is that you're kind of speaking about. Anyway, take care. God bless. Lots of love. Bye bye.